Ethan had always believed that space was silent. He had imagined it as an endless stretch of black, broken only by distant stars and the faint hum of his outpost's life support systems. Now, standing on the metal balcony of the remote station, perched on the edge of a cliff, he realized that silence could feel heavier than noise. The wind on this planet, thin and sharp, cut across his face, carrying a scent he couldn't name, something alive yet unfamiliar. The planet, designated Zareth Prime, had been just another dot on the charts when humanity first detected it. No breathable atmosphere, strange geological formations, and, according to orbital scans, the faint shimmer of energy deep underground. Most of the scientific teams had ignored it. Too far, too dangerous. But Ethan had volunteered. Danger was part of exploration. Risk was part of being human. That night, the outpost's lights reflected on the rocky terrain below like tiny scattered stars. Ethan adjusted his gloves and returned to the control room. The energy readings were spiking again. They had been unpredictable since he arrived. A pulsing, rhythmic signature from deep beneath the surface. He pulled on his exosuit and activated the scanners. The corridors of the station hummed, lights blinking with every footstep. Alone in this part of the planet, Ethan felt the familiar thrill of isolation. This was what exploration was supposed to feel like: uncertain, daring, and full of possibility. Descending the metallic stairs to the shuttle bay, he felt an unusual vibration under his boots. The outpost's sensors had never picked it up before. It wasn't the tremor of the planet or the machinery. It felt aware. Ethan frowned. He had explored asteroid belts and moon caverns that had far less mystery than this. The shuttle thrummed as he powered it on. The underground entrance had been mapped weeks before, a gaping fissure lined with sharp, crystalline formations. From orbit, it had looked like a vein of light beneath the planet's surface. Now, entering it felt like stepping into another world. Inside the shuttle, the hum of engines and the soft red glow of the control panels surrounded him. He checked the readings again. Energy spikes, low frequency, pulsing in irregular patterns, almost like a heartbeat. The descent was careful. The shuttle's landing skidded slightly over jagged rocks before coming to a halt on a smooth surface, almost polished. He turned off the engines and listened. The silence pressed in. He stepped out, boots crunching on the translucent surface. The crystals around him reflected the faint shuttle light, scattering shadows like 1,000 tiny mirrors. And then he saw her. At first he thought it was a reflection, a trick of the light. A figure standing at the far end of the cavern, slender, humanoid, glowing faintly. The light around her shimmered and shifted, a soft aura that seemed alive. She wasn't moving aggressively. She wasn't threatening. She simply watched him. Ethan froze. No alarms, no instincts warned him. Only curiosity and the rising pulse of excitement. He had trained for alien encounters, for first contact, for the unpredictable. And yet, standing there, he realized that nothing in training could prepare him for this. "Hello?" His voice echoed off the crystal walls, thin and uncertain. The figure tilted her head, and a wave of calm passed through him, not from sound, but through something deeper, something almost inside his mind. Images flashed before him. A vast world bathed in violet light, cities suspended in air, forests that moved as though breathing. He staggered slightly, gripping the shuttle door for balance. I can see you," he whispered, unsure whether he meant her or the visions. Her eyes, large, luminous, impossibly clear, locked onto his. And then he heard it, not with his ears, but inside his mind. "Hello, you are here." Ethan swallowed. This was impossible. Telepathy wasn't real. Not scientifically, not in any records humanity had discovered. And yet, there it was. He forced himself to speak aloud, though the words felt clumsy. "I'm Ethan. I come in peace." The figure stepped closer. She moved with grace that made no sound on the crystalline ground. With each step, the air around her shimmered slightly. Ethan noticed her eyes never left his. There was intelligence there, but also curiosity. Something like wonder mirrored in his own gaze, and then, without warning, she vanished. The space she had occupied shimmered, then nothing. Ethan blinked, heart hammering. He reached out instinctively. The air was cool, almost electric. A soft laugh, musical and distant, echoed through the cavern. He spun around, eyes scanning every crystal, every shadow. Nothing. "Wait, stay," he called, but his voice seemed swallowed. Then she reappeared, closer this time, standing just beyond the shuttle's landing skids. She studied him as if seeing him for the first time, and he realized he was doing the same. He had never felt this way before. Not with any human, not with any living creature. There was a sense of recognition, of familiarity, though he had never met her. What are you?" he asked, though the words sounded hollow. She tilted, her head again, and another wave of images hit him, memories not his own. She showed him visions of her people, fragile and scattered, fighting a slow extinction. She showed him their worlds, lost to cosmic storms and a dying sun. And in the center of it all, a single thought. "You are needed." Ethan staggered back, gripping the shuttle railing. His mind reeled. He had read about alien civilizations, studied first contact protocols, but nothing could have prepared him for this direct, intimate connection. She took another step forward, her presence filling the space, her gaze unwavering. And then, without warning, she appeared in his shuttle. How, he couldn't tell. The air shimmered and pulsed. He wanted to react, to speak, to move, but fear and fascination froze him. She stepped closer, and the air around him seemed to hum with energy. He could feel her thoughts brushing against his mind like gentle waves. And then, she whispered. Not aloud, but inside his mind. "Mine." Ethan blinked, the word echoing in his head. Not in a possessive way, not threatening, but certain. Certain that she had chosen him, that she trusted him, that she needed him. The intensity of the word sent a shiver down his spine. He stepped back slowly, trying to process. I don't understand," he said aloud, though he knew she could hear every syllable in his thoughts. Her eyes softened. Another wave of calm, reassurance, and curiosity washed over him. She wasn't threatening. She wasn't demanding. She was communicating, bonding, and trusting. Ethan took a deep breath. Humans adapt, he thought. This is different, but I can handle this. The hours passed in silence, broken only by the hum of the shuttle and the faint pulsing of the crystals. Ethan studied her and she studied him, each learning, each sensing the other's presence. No words could fully explain it. No protocol could guide him through it. It was connection, pure and unfiltered. By the time dawn, or what passed for, dawn on Zareth Prime, crept through the fissures of the cavern, Ethan realized he hadn't felt fear in hours, only awe and curiosity. Finally, she moved back, stepping off the shuttle floor and into the crystal-lit shadows. She glanced at him one last time, and the word returned, not in sound, but in certainty. Mine. Ethan closed his eyes, exhaling. He did not know what it meant fully. He did not know where this connection would lead. But for the first time he felt the real weight of being human, not in isolation, not in solitude, not in survival alone, but in the ability to connect, to trust and to rise to challenges no other species could face. He had found something extraordinary, something that required courage, patience, and humanity, and he was ready. Ethan woke to the low hum of the outpost's life support system, the faint red glow of the control panels painting shadows across the small room. Sleep had not truly come. His mind was alive with the memory of last night, the figure, her presence, the word that had echoed in his head. Mine. He rubbed his eyes and forced himself to focus on the routine checks. Yet every glance at the entrance of his quarters made him wonder if she might appear again. The thought made him uneasy and curious at the same time. He had explored countless worlds, navigated asteroid belts, and encountered environmental hazards that could kill in seconds, yet nothing had prepared him for this. an intelligent life form that did not communicate with words alone. He had spent hours studying the shuttle's data from the previous night, reviewing the energy readings from the cavern. The spikes were still there, irregular but rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. And somehow he felt that these signals were connected to her, or perhaps to what she was guarding or hiding. Ethan decided to return to the cavern. He suited up carefully, checking his equipment, though he knew she posed no immediate threat. There was a strange trust that had formed between them, even without words, even without understanding. As he descended the cliffside path to the cavern, the crystals began to glow faintly in response to his presence, casting shimmering patterns on the walls. The air was cooler here, electric, almost alive. And then he saw her again, waiting at the far end, watching him. She did not move, yet her presence filled the cavern entirely. "Hello again," Ethan said, testing the sound, though he was sure she heard him in another way. She stepped forward, her movement smooth, graceful, almost effortless. Her gaze met his, and once more the images flooded his mind. Visions of her people, their lives intertwined with energy sources that humans barely understood. He glimpsed cities that floated on currents of light, creatures moving with a fluidity that defied gravity, and technology that seemed almost alive. Ethan took a cautious step closer. I want to understand. Can you show me more?" he asked aloud, unsure if he was ready for the answer. Her eyes softened. Another pulse of energy passed between them, and this time he felt it in his chest, not just in his mind. She was inviting him, not as an intruder but as a partner. The visions became more detailed. He saw her people struggling against a cosmic threat, a storm of energy that could consume worlds. She was not just curious. She was desperate, and somehow she had chosen him to help. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. He had been trained to handle unknown environments, to make quick decisions, to survive against odds, but this was different. This was not just survival. This was trust, partnership, and the fate of an entire species resting in some way on him. "Your people, they're in danger?" he asked, though he already sensed the answer. Another pulse of thought, an image of her world being engulfed by a storm, cities crumbling, and lives fading. Yet intertwined with the devastation was hope, hope that humans could help. She had shown him humanity's potential, their problem-solving abilities, their adaptability. She believed humans could make a difference where her species could not alone. Ethan swallowed. I'll help, but you have to trust me fully." Her response was immediate. A wave of calm, certainty, and something almost like joy washed over him. She stepped closer, and this time he could feel her energy more strongly, not threatening but reassuring. Once again the word echoed in his mind, mine. It was no longer a word of possession. It was a word of trust, of connection, of partnership. She had chosen him, and he had accepted. Over the following days, Ethan returned to the cavern regularly. Each visit revealed more. She could communicate through thoughts, images, and feelings. She showed him how her species lived, how they harvested energy, and how their technology was integrated with their biology. Every new vision expanded his understanding of the universe, but also reminded him of the fragility of life, both human and alien. Ethan began experimenting with the energy she could share. At first it was small. He could sense vibrations in the crystals, detect the slightest fluctuations in the cavern. With her guidance, he learned to interpret these signals, to anticipate changes, to understand the rhythm of the planet's energy. It was subtle at first, but he realized that humans could adapt quickly, learning to interpret patterns that had taken her species centuries to understand. One evening, as he was analyzing the readings, she appeared beside him. No words, only presence. He felt her curiosity mirroring his own. And then she did something unexpected. She extended her hand, not physically but in thought. She wanted him to reach out, to touch the energy with her guidance. Ethan hesitated, then placed his hand over hers. A surge of warmth and light passed through him, and he felt the cavern come alive. Crystals pulsed in response, resonating with their combined energy. It was not magic. It was science, life, and understanding merged in a way humans had never experienced. For the first time, Ethan realized the full scope of what they could achieve together. With her knowledge and his ingenuity, they could protect her people, study the planet's energy, and perhaps find ways to harness it for humanity as well. But more than that, He understood that this partnership was about trust, mutual respect, and learning from each other. Over time, he noticed changes in himself. His senses sharpened, his mind worked faster, and he began to anticipate dangers before they appeared. She had shown him that humanity's strength was not in brute force or technology alone, but in adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to form connections, even with species vastly different from their own. One night, while reviewing data in the cavern, he felt a presence behind him. She had entered silently, as always, her eyes glowing softly. She watched him, and for a moment Ethan felt something like nervousness. He was human. He had not fully experienced intimacy or emotional connection in a way that involved another being of such power and grace. Yet he felt drawn to her, not in fear but in admiration and respect. She stepped closer, and he felt the word again in his mind. Mine. This time he understood completely. It was not a claim of possession. It was an expression of trust, of connection, of partnership. She had chosen him to work with her, to learn with her, to face the challenges ahead together. Ethan nodded slowly, acknowledging her presence. I understand, he whispered aloud. I'm with you. The next day their partnership deepened. She guided him to areas of the cavern that had previously been inaccessible. He observed alien flora that glowed faintly, feeding on the planet's energy. He saw structures that seemed to grow organically, their architecture alive, responding to her presence. She explained, not in words but through thought, that these were remnants of her civilization's advanced technology, integrated seamlessly with nature. Ethan marveled. Humanity had explored countless worlds, yet he had never seen anything like this. The combination of biology and technology was beyond anything human science had achieved. And yet she trusted him to understand, to learn, to adapt. As days turned into weeks, the bond between them grew stronger. They were partners in discovery, in survival, and in understanding. Ethan learned to interpret her signals, to anticipate her guidance, and to act in ways that complemented her abilities. She, in turn, learned to observe human ingenuity, problem-solving, and courage. Together they became a team unlike any other, human and alien, learning from each other, preparing for challenges that neither could face alone. One evening, as the twin moons of Zareth Prime cast silver light across the cavern, she stepped close to him. The air shimmered around her, and Ethan felt the pulse of her energy stronger than ever. She looked into his eyes, and for the first time he felt not just trust but expectation. Mine. The word echoed again, and Ethan understood its full meaning now. Not as possession, not as control, but as a bond. A promise of cooperation, respect, and shared purpose. He returned her gaze, a silent acknowledgement that he accepted this partnership fully. And in that moment, Ethan realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not just in technology or survival skills. It was in connection, trust, adaptability, and the courage to face the unknown with an open mind. With Lyra, he had found the perfect example of why humans could rise to challenges others could not, and why the bond between species could shape the future of worlds. He stepped closer to her, letting the energy flow between them. She mirrored his movements, their connection deepening, stronger, and more intricate. Together, they explored the cavern further, discovering new energy sources, studying alien formations, and preparing for the challenges that lay beyond the safety of the outpost. Ethan understood now that the journey had only begun. This partnership was not just about discovery. It was about survival, growth, and shaping the future of two species. And with her by his side, he knew they could face whatever dangers the universe might send, as long as they trusted each other completely. For the first time, he felt truly alive, not alone in the vastness of space, but connected, bonded, and ready to face the unknown. The next morning, Ethan woke to the soft hum of the outpost and the faint pulse of energy in the cavern. The memory of the previous day stayed with him, the way she had guided him through the crystalline structures, the glow of her presence, and the feeling of partnership that had grown between them. He stretched, suit already prepared for another exploration, and stepped toward the shuttle bay. Today felt different. There was an urgency in the air, though he couldn't name it yet. Lyra waited at the edge of the cavern as he approached. Her eyes reflected the faint light of the crystals, luminous and alive, her body almost blending into the glow around her. Ethan felt the pulse of her energy, steady yet strong, as if she was aware of every movement he made before he even made it. He had learned to anticipate her guidance, but today he sensed that they were about to face something new. "Something is coming," he said aloud, though he wasn't certain if she could hear him in the way he intended. Her presence seemed to answer him anyway. A wave of thought, calm yet serious, passed into his mind. He understood it perfectly. They were not alone. The energy readings in the cavern began to fluctuate, sharper and more irregular than before. Ethan checked his instruments. There were spikes he could not explain, not from the planet, not from natural sources. He realized, with a mixture of fear and clarity, that they were being watched. Or perhaps pursued. Lyra moved closer, her glow intensifying. Ethan felt her awareness stretching beyond the cavern, scanning the darkness, sensing threats he could not see. He adjusted his suit's sensors, ready for anything. Even so, he felt a tension in the air that no human technology could measure. Minutes passed. The silence became heavier, pressing against him like a living weight. Then the shadows shifted. From the crystalline formations emerged shapes, dark, moving with purpose not natural to the planet. Ethan instinctively raised his scanning device, identifying the intruders. They were alien in form, unlike anything he had encountered. Their movements were calculated, predatory, and their energy signatures were sharp, aggressive. Ethan's heart pounded, but he did not panic. He had faced danger before, and he had learned that humans had a unique ability to adapt quickly under pressure. His hand hovered over the control panel of the shuttle, ready to deploy defense measures. Lyra's presence beside him was steadying. Her glow flared and a pulse of energy extended outward, scanning and probing the intruders' intentions. Ethan realized that she was not only aware of their presence, she was assessing them, understanding them, predicting them. Together, they could face this threat. The first of the intruders stepped closer, its limbs moving unnaturally, almost like they were guided by some shared consciousness. Ethan noticed that they were not hostile yet. They were observing, testing. He understood immediately that a mistake could trigger aggression. He glanced at Lyra. Her eyes conveyed clarity and confidence. She extended her thoughts toward him, and he felt a surge of coordination, a shared understanding that they were a team. Ethan nodded, acknowledging her guidance. "Stay calm," he whispered aloud, though the words were as much for himself as for any reassurance. The intruders approached, and Ethan adjusted his sensors to track every movement. Lyra stepped slightly forward, her presence creating a soft shield of energy around them. The intruders paused, sensing the combined strength of human ingenuity and alien power. Ethan realized that humans were unpredictable to other species. They adapted quickly, thought creatively, and acted in ways that others could not anticipate. He understood that this was their advantage. He tapped into the shuttle's controls, preparing a non-lethal defense mechanism. A burst of energy designed to repel rather than harm. The intruders lunged suddenly, faster than he expected. Ethan reacted instinctively, triggering the energy pulse. The intruders stumbled back, their forms shimmering under the force, but they did not retreat entirely. Lyra moved beside him, her aura flaring. Energy waves extended outward, pushing the intruders back further, creating space for Ethan to maneuver. He adjusted the pulse frequency, learning from her guidance, combining human quick thinking with her experience and perception. The intruders regrouped, circling, testing again. Ethan realized that this was more than a confrontation, it was a test. They wanted to measure strength, to identify weaknesses. He and Lyra were learning about them as much as they were learning about them. He thought quickly. Humans had an ability to improvise, to use their environment strategically. He noticed the crystals in the cavern responding to Lyra's energy. He sent a pulse of thought to her, guiding her to channel energy through the formations. The crystals glowed brighter, resonating with both their energies. The intruders hesitated, their aggression faltering as the combined force of human ingenuity and alien power created an unpredictable defense. Ethan felt a surge of confidence. Humans were adaptable. Humans could innovate under pressure. This was why she had chosen him. He had learned from her, and now she was learning from him. Together, they were stronger than any single species could be. The intruders tried another approach, moving from the shadows, attempting to flank them. Ethan anticipated the move, signaling to Lyra through their shared bond. She reacted instantly, redirecting energy. forming a barrier that guided the intruders' path away from them. Step by step, they pushed the intruders back, combining human strategy and alien ability. Ethan realized that this was more than a battle. It was a demonstration of cooperation. They were proving that humans could not only survive but also complement alien strengths in ways that no other species could. Finally, the intruders retreated, dissolving into the darkness of the cavern. Ethan's heart raced, but he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. They had faced a threat that neither could have managed alone, and together they had prevailed. Lyra's glow dimmed slightly, a sign of relief and satisfaction. Ethan approached her, still catching his breath. He felt the word again, stronger this time. Mine. It was no longer a whisper of connection, it was a declaration of trust, of mutual reliance, and of partnership. We did it, he said, voice steady now. Though adrenaline still thrummed through him, she tilted her head and another wave of thought washed over him. Approval, pride, and something almost like warmth. Over the following days, Ethan and Lyra prepared for further threats. The intruders had been only a test, a reminder that the universe held dangers beyond comprehension. Ethan trained with Lyra, learning to anticipate energy fluctuations, interpret alien signals, and integrate his human instincts with her guidance. They explored deeper into the cavern, discovering hidden chambers filled with ancient technology. Lyra showed him how her species had used energy sources to power entire cities, to manipulate the environment, and to sustain life in ways humans had never imagined. Ethan marveled, but he also realized that humans could contribute something equally vital: creativity, problem-solving, and adaptability. One evening, as they studied a particularly complex device, Ethan had a realization. Humanity's strength was not just in survival or technology. It was in connection, trust, and the ability to face unknown challenges without fear. Lyra had chosen him not just for his skills, but because humans could rise to challenges no other species could. He looked at her, and for the first time, he felt the depth of their bond. She was not merely an ally, she was a partner, a guide, and a reflection of what humanity could achieve when paired with knowledge beyond their own. He extended his hand and she mirrored the gesture. The energy between them pulsed softly, a sign of harmony and mutual respect. As they prepared to leave the cavern, Ethan reflected on what had happened. The intruders had tested them, but they had proven that human resilience combined with alien ability could overcome almost any obstacle. The universe was vast and dangerous, but he no longer felt alone or unprepared. Lyra moved beside him, her presence reassuring. He felt the word again. Mine. This time he understood completely. It was a bond of respect, trust, and partnership. She had chosen him and he had chosen her. Together, they could face the unknown. The next day, they ventured to the edge of the cavern where a hidden tunnel led to the surface. The landscape beyond was both beautiful and alien, with towering crystal formations and swirling energy fields. Ethan realized that this world, for all its danger, was also full of opportunity. He glanced at Lyra. Her eyes met his, and he felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had experienced before. Humanity had the ability to adapt, to survive, and to thrive in the most unlikely places, and with her guidance he knew they could achieve more than either species could alone. The sun, or what passed for sunlight on Zareth Prime, rose above the horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the bond between him and Lyra strengthen with every passing moment. The universe was vast, filled with unknown dangers, but also with possibilities, and he was ready. The planet Zareth Prime stretched out before Ethan and Lyra like a landscape from a dream. Towers of crystal jutted from the ground, reflecting the light of the twin moons and casting dancing patterns across the alien terrain. The air was alive with energy pulses, some natural, some perhaps remnants of the technology Lyra's people had left behind. Ethan felt the familiar pulse of her presence beside him, steady and comforting. They had left the cavern after their encounter with the intruders, and for the first time Ethan realized the true scale of the challenges they might face. The intruders were not alone. This planet had drawn attention from forces far beyond his comprehension, yet he also understood something profound. Humanity's ability to adapt and improvise could make them stronger than anyone expected. Lyra moved ahead, her glowing form cutting through the crystal forest like a beacon. Ethan followed, careful to match her pace, studying the energy patterns around them. He had learned to interpret her subtle cues, the way she could guide him through the dangerous terrain without a word. "Do you see that?" he asked aloud, pointing to a formation of crystals that pulsed differently than the others. Lyra slowed, tilting her head. A wave of thought passed to him, clear and direct. Danger. Ethan's heart quickened, but he did not hesitate. Humans thrived under pressure. He activated the shuttle's scanning equipment, focusing on the crystal cluster. Energy readings spiked suddenly, sharp and erratic. The crystals were not natural. They were a form of technology, perhaps a sentinel or a warning system. Before he could react, the crystals emitted a burst of light. Ethan instinctively ducked as energy arcs danced across the ground, and he felt Lyra's power stabilizing the field. Together they managed to absorb the energy, redirecting it harmlessly into the environment. It was a delicate balance, and Ethan realized that human intuition and quick thinking were what made the difference. Once the crystals had settled, Ethan and Lyra continued, more cautious than before. He noticed that the landscape changed as they moved farther from the cavern. The ground was softer, dotted with plants that emitted faint bioluminescent glows. Small creatures, alien in shape but strangely intelligent, observed them from the shadows. Ethan remembered his training. Observe, adapt, do not interfere unless necessary. Lyra's thoughts guided him. She showed him patterns in the creature's movements, subtle signs that indicated whether they were curious or dangerous. Ethan learned to anticipate these behaviors, adjusting his path and his actions accordingly. Together they moved with a rhythm, human and alien, synchronized through trust and understanding. As the hours passed, they reached a plateau overlooking a vast valley. The energy readings surged again, stronger than anything Ethan had experienced. In the distance, he saw a formation of structures unlike any natural formations. Towers of crystal and metal intertwined, alive with energy. Lyra's glow intensified. She projected images into his mind. Her people's cities lost to cosmic storms, destroyed by forces they could not control. She revealed the reason they had chosen this location. These structures contained technology that could protect her species and perhaps humanity as well. But it was fragile, vulnerable to attacks from those who sought to dominate or destroy. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Humans had always faced challenges, but this was different. The fate of an entire species rested on their actions. He looked at Lyra, her gaze steady and resolute, and felt the word again in his mind, mine. It was no longer a whisper of connection. It was a declaration of partnership, trust, and shared purpose. They descended into the valley carefully. The ground was uneven, dotted with alien flora that reacted to their presence. Ethan noticed that some plants emitted energy pulses when disturbed. He adapted, moving cautiously, relying on both his instincts and Lyra's guidance. Suddenly, movement caught his eye. A group of intruders emerged from the shadows, more organized than before. They moved with precision, clearly coordinated, and their energy signatures were aggressive. Ethan's pulse quickened, but he did not panic. Humans thrived in the face of danger, and he had learned to combine strategy with adaptability. Lyra's glow flared, projecting a shield of energy around them. The intruders hesitated, sensing the combined strength of human ingenuity and alien power. Ethan adjusted the shuttle's defenses, creating barriers and redirecting energy pulses. Together they formed a force neither could match alone. The intruders attacked in waves, but Ethan's quick thinking and Lyra's power allowed them to repel each assault. He noticed patterns in the intruders' movements, weaknesses they could exploit. With a precise combination of energy manipulation and human strategy, they forced the intruders to retreat, deeper into the valley. As the last intruder disappeared into the shadows, Ethan and Lyra took a moment to recover. He felt the word again, mine. It resonated with certainty, trust, and mutual reliance. Ethan understood fully now. This bond was not about possession, it was about partnership, about facing the unknown together. They pressed forward, reaching the ancient structures. The towers of crystal and metal pulsed with energy, alive in a way that reminded Ethan of Lyra herself. She guided him through the defenses, showing him how her species had integrated technology with biology. creating systems that were self-sustaining and intelligent. Ethan marveled at the complexity. He realized that humanity's strength lay not just in tools or weapons, but in creativity, adaptability, and the ability to form connections. He could learn from this technology and perhaps teach them something in return. They explored the structures carefully. Ethan discovered control panels that responded to thought and movement, energy conduits that could be redirected to stabilize the systems. With Lyra's guidance, he learned to interact with the technology, combining human problem-solving with her innate understanding. Hours passed, and Ethan felt a growing sense of accomplishment. Humans could adapt, learn, and innovate in ways other species could not. Lyra's trust in him was well placed, and he felt a deep sense of pride in their partnership. As they reached the central chamber, a large energy core pulsed at the heart of the structure. Ethan could feel its power, immense and raw. Lyra projected images of her people, showing him how this core had once sustained entire cities, protected them from cosmic storms, and maintained life on their world. Now it was vulnerable, and they had to act to protect it. Ethan studied the core, analyzing the energy flow. He realized that humans could provide a unique perspective, adapting the systems in ways her species had not anticipated. With careful adjustments, he redirected energy pulses, stabilizing the core and preventing overload. Lyra mirrored his actions, amplifying his efforts with her energy. Together, they succeeded. The core stabilized, glowing steadily, its power contained and secure. Ethan felt a surge of satisfaction. They had not only protected the technology, but had also demonstrated the power of human ingenuity and collaboration. Lyra's presence beside him was warm and reassuring. The word echoed again, mine. It was now a symbol of unity, trust, and partnership. Ethan nodded, understanding that their bond was unbreakable, forged through shared challenges and mutual respect. As they prepared to leave the structure, Ethan reflected on what they had accomplished. Humans could rise to challenges no other species could, not through strength alone, but through intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Lyra had chosen him not just for his skills, but because humanity could complement her species in ways no one else could. The twin moons rose higher in the sky, casting silver light across the valley. Ethan felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. The universe was vast and filled with unknown dangers, but he no longer felt alone or unprepared. With Lyra by his side, he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. He glanced at her, and for the first time, he felt a profound sense of connection. She was not merely an ally. She was a partner, a guide, and a reflection of what humanity could achieve when paired with knowledge beyond their own. Ethan reached out, and she mirrored his gesture. The energy between them pulsed softly, a sign of harmony and mutual respect. Together they stepped into the night, ready to face the unknown, their bond stronger than any threat the universe could present. And in that moment, Ethan understood the true meaning of the word mine. It was not about control or possession, it was about trust, unity, and the courage to face the impossible together. The journey ahead would be challenging. Forces beyond their understanding were moving, and threats were gathering. But Ethan felt ready. Humanity had always risen to challenges, and with Lyra's guidance they would not only survive, they would thrive, proving that the human spirit was as strong as any energy in the universe. The valley was quiet under the twin moons, but Ethan sensed the tension lingering in the air. After stabilizing the energy core and proving their abilities against the intruders, he and Lyra had expected a brief respite. But humans and aliens alike understood that true danger never waited. Something larger, more determined, was moving toward them. Lyra's presence beside him was steady and calm, a beacon of strength. Ethan could feel her energy, analyzing, anticipating, and preparing. The word mine echoed in his mind again, stronger than ever, not as possession but as assurance. She trusted him, relied on him, and he in turn trusted her completely. Together they were ready to face whatever came next. The first signs appeared as a distant glow on the horizon. It pulsed with unnatural intensity, rhythmic but erratic, almost like a heartbeat. Ethan checked his sensors. Massive energy fluctuations unlike anything they had seen before. This was no scouting party. This was a full-scale threat. Lyra extended her energy, sensing the approaching force. She projected images into Ethan's mind, a fleet of intruders, larger and more organized than before, advancing toward the valley with a single purpose. They were not just explorers or scavengers. They were predators intent on claiming or destroying everything in their path. Ethan swallowed, feeling a surge of adrenaline. Humans had faced overwhelming odds before, and survival often depended on adaptability, courage, and quick thinking. He glanced at Lyra. She was calm, but her presence radiated urgency. Together they would have to act. They moved swiftly through the valley, positioning themselves near the central energy core. Ethan adjusted the shuttle's systems, preparing energy barriers, pulse emitters, and defensive shields. Lyra focused her energy, amplifying the core's natural defenses. Their combined presence made the air hum with power. The intruders arrived like a wave of darkness, their forms moving with precision and coordination. Ethan realized that they had underestimated the humans' adaptability and the alien species' integration with technology. This time, however, they had come prepared for battle. Lyra and Ethan worked seamlessly. The first wave of intruders attacked, energy blasts colliding with shields, the ground shaking with force. Ethan guided energy pulses through the crystalline structures, creating barriers and redirecting attacks. Lyra extended her aura, strengthening the shields and striking with precision. The intruders regrouped and adapted, testing for weaknesses. Ethan quickly adjusted strategies using human intuition and creativity to anticipate their moves. He noticed patterns they could exploit, combining them with Lyra's innate understanding of the energy flows. Together they became a force the intruders could not predict or overcome. Hours passed, the battle relentless and intense. Ethan marveled at how humans could adapt under pressure, how problem-solving and ingenuity could turn the tide in moments of desperation. He realized that Lyra had chosen him not just for his abilities, but because humanity could complement her species in ways no one else could. As the intruders pressed harder, Ethan and Lyra focused on the core. The energy within it pulsed violently, reacting to the battle. If it destabilized, the entire valley, and perhaps more, could be destroyed. Ethan tapped into human ingenuity, devising a way to channel the energy safely while Lyra guided the process, amplifying his actions. The intruders launched a coordinated strike aimed directly at the core. Ethan reacted instinctively, sending pulses of energy to counteract the assault. Lyra's glow intensified, creating a protective barrier around them. The combined force of human creativity and alien power pushed the intruders back. Ethan realized something critical. The intruders could not understand human adaptability. They relied on predictability, strength, and patterns. Humans thrived in chaos, improvising in ways others could not anticipate. He adjusted the shields, creating unpredictable energy flows that confused the intruders, forcing them to retreat once again. Lyra and Ethan pressed forward, reinforcing the core's defenses and stabilizing the energy within the structures. Ethan felt a surge of pride. Humans could not only survive extreme conditions, but could also lead, guide, and innovate under pressure. Their ingenuity was unmatched, a force that complemented Lyra's own abilities perfectly. As the night wore on, the intruders attempted one final assault. Ethan and Lyra stood together, energy flowing between them in harmony. The core pulsed steadily, the shield strong and unwavering. Ethan moved with precision, anticipating attacks and adapting in real time. Lyra mirrored his actions, her presence amplifying every maneuver. The intruders faltered, unable to overcome the combination of human ingenuity and alien power. One by one they retreated, vanishing into the darkness from which they came. The valley fell silent, the air humming softly with residual energy. Ethan exhaled, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished. Humans had faced an overwhelming threat and had prevailed, not through brute force alone, but through creativity, adaptability, and courage. Lyra's trust in him had been well placed. She stepped closer, her glow gentle now, projecting a sense of calm and pride. The word echoed in his mind once more. Mine. Ethan understood fully now. It was not about ownership or control. It was about partnership, trust, and the recognition that together they were stronger than any force the universe could present. Over the next days, they explored the valley and surrounding regions, uncovering more ancient structures and technology. Lyra showed Ethan how her species had used energy to sustain life, protect cities, and create harmony between technology and nature. Ethan applied human ingenuity, adapting systems, stabilizing energy flows, and improving efficiency in ways her species had not anticipated. Together, they achieved something remarkable, a fully functional system capable of sustaining life and energy on the planet. Ethan marveled at how humans could integrate with alien technology, learning, adapting, and enhancing it. This was humanity's strength, creativity, intelligence, and the courage to face the unknown. Ethan and Lyra spent hours in the central chamber, monitoring energy flows and mapping out the valley's systems. He realized that humans were not just survivors. They were problem solvers, innovators, and partners in ways that could shape the future of worlds. Lyra extended her hand, and Ethan mirrored her gesture. Energy pulsed softly between them, a sign of harmony, trust, and unity. The word mine resonated in his mind, filled with understanding and purpose. They had faced danger, proven their abilities, and forged a bond stronger than any threat they had encountered. As the twin moons rose high above the horizon, Ethan felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humanity had once again proven its value, not just in survival or technology, but in the ability to connect, adapt, and rise to challenges no other species could face. Lyra had chosen him for his humanity, for the qualities that set humans apart, and he had honored that trust. Together they prepared for the journey back to the outpost, knowing that the universe was vast and filled with unknown dangers. But Ethan felt confident. Humans had always adapted, always survived, and always found a way to thrive. With Lyra by his side, they could face any challenge, protect her species, and explore the cosmos together. As they walked through the crystalline valley, Ethan glanced at Lyra. Her presence was radiant, her eyes reflecting the light of the moons. He felt the word in his mind again. Mine. It was a bond of trust, of partnership, of unity that transcended species and boundaries. Ethan smiled. He understood now that this bond was not about possession. It was about connection, respect, and shared purpose. Humanity had risen to the challenge, and together, they had proven that the human spirit could overcome any obstacle. The valley stretched endlessly before them, full of mysteries and possibilities. Ethan knew that their journey was far from over, but he also knew that with trust, adaptability, and courage, they could face whatever lay ahead. Lyra moved beside him, energy pulsing softly in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Ethan felt a surge of determination. Humanity had always faced the unknown, and now together with an alien partner they had achieved something extraordinary. As dawn approached, casting silver light across the valley, Ethan took a deep breath. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but he was ready. Humans had proven their strength once again, not just through technology or force, but through courage, creativity, and the ability to connect with others across the stars. Lyra looked at him, and he felt the word mine one last time. It was not a warning, not a command, but a promise of trust, partnership, and shared destiny. Together they would explore, protect, and shape the future of worlds, demonstrating that the human spirit could rise to any challenge and shine brighter than the stars themselves. Ethan smiled, filled with pride and purpose. Humanity had once again proven its value, and with Lyra by his side, there was no force in the universe they could not face. And with that they stepped forward, united, ready to embrace the unknown and the endless possibilities of the cosmos.